All right, good morning, everybody. My name is CJ Novak, and today I'm going to be talking about my testimony. This is a very big part of my life. This is how I found Jesus. This is how I am the man I am today. This is my story of how I found the Lord. So it's pretty crazy. This is going to be a very informative story as far as how much y'all are going to learn about my life and kind of some of the things that I was dealing with growing up and recently. So, all right, so I'm going to start back to right around fifth grade. So I'm going to go way back. I'm just going to share kind of everything. So when I was in fifth grade, I was labeled as the class clown. I was very just goofy and just kind of stupid, just really just obnoxious. And I had a lot of these kids levitate towards me because of that. Like they liked being around me because I was just a goofy kid. I had thought at the time, being young, being in fifth grade, that I had met people that I thought were my friends. And when I got to middle school, they all started branching off and knew other people from some of these other elementary schools and started hanging out with them. And I just was in a spot where I kind of thought, I was like, okay, I don't really think I have any friends. This was the first time me understanding that and seeing that at that age. I was like, okay, I am kind of alone. I don't really have anybody. And it was one of the worst feelings that I felt at such a young age. It's really unfortunate for me, but I was like, that was my first time experiencing loneliness. And I pretty much went all throughout middle school without making. I ended up making a couple friends. I made a few friends in middle school, but honestly, thinking back now, there's only one of the guys that I met in middle school is really my only like true friend from middle school. So yeah, really didn't have any genuine friends going throughout middle school. Moving on, getting into freshman year of high school, it was kind of the same ordeal. I didn't really have any friends carry over to high school besides maybe like one guy. So I was pretty alone freshman year. I knew people though, like I knew like some of the guys that I played football with. I was playing football. So I knew of them. I knew they were there, but like we weren't friends or nothing like that. I was fortunate enough to meet like one of my closest friends in high school. He is now like just one of my closest friends. He's like my best friend. Like we're brothers at this point. I met him and I really like, how do I describe it? I was really drawn towards him because we just had so many similarities. We met on the wrestling team and he played football as well. So I played football, so got really close with him. And I met a couple. I had some other guys. Like I said, I had like a few people here and there, but overall, like I wasn't in. I guess the main thing, I wasn't in the same classes for the most part with any of these people that I was close with. So the majority of like my time in high school, I felt alone because I wasn't in the same classes as the people that I was friends with, and mostly that was due to like them being in higher level classes because I didn't care about school. I did not care about school whatsoever. The only thing that was really on my mind during high school was playing sports and going home and playing video games, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really care to try. I had no motivation to try. And yeah, just going throughout high school, senior year, I actually wasn't supposed to graduate. My teacher, English teacher, was blessed me, allowed me to graduate. She actually bumped my grade up just a little bit so I could pass the class. But yeah, like I said, overall, high school in itself was a combination of loneliness. I did deal with some bullying as well and some racism. I was one of the few minorities in my high school. I went to a very like wealthy, upper middle class, I'd say, high school. A lot of kids with money there. And yeah, my family, by no means, we weren't really categorized with them in that social class. We didn't really have a lot of money. We actually had a hard time. We almost went into bankruptcy because my dad lost his job and eating fast food every day. I remember eating Taco Bell almost every single day and McDonald's and stuff like that because it was cheap and it was horrible. But so like I said, high school was just a combination of loneliness. I would just say loneliness. That loneliness kind of continued to carry on, and I actually really felt lonely when my buddy, my best friend, my current best friend, he left because he was like the one dude that I can go to and like about anything. And he was just the one dude I just looked forward to like hanging out with in high school. As soon as he left, he transferred to a different school. No, it's kind of I just kind of felt like, dang, like this sucks. So I got through high school. I graduated and immediately went off to the military. I graduated in May of 2018 and then went into the Navy in July of 2018. So quick transition. Yeah. I think another important part to mention too is that I got kicked out of my house during high school. So my life at home, my experience at school and just schooling in itself was poor. I also got bumped into like a lower level class. I forget what they called it, but it was a program for like kids that they thought had a learning disability. So they put me in that class. And then I was like subconscious about that. I'm like, dang, like I'm just not smart. I'm just dumb. Like, and I had meetings with teachers and stuff, and I don't know, man. It was schooling specifically. Like, it wasn't a good experience. And on top of that, just the experience I had with the loneliness and the bullying and my experiences with other kids and stuff, it just wasn't good. So, yeah, went into the military. Unfortunately, all that stuff kind of carried through into the military. I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have a fresh start, and I had, like I said, I was always somehow able to make like a few friends. So I had like some friends when I went into after boot camp. I went to school, military school, and I met some guys there, and that was fun. But it wasn't until like I transferred from school to my first command that all those experiences that I had dealt with in high school kind of carried over. I was just kind of obnoxious, you would think that going through boot camp, that was when you would learn to like be a little more disciplined, be a good listener, all these things, but I just didn't really get it. And one thing like that I forgot to mention was while I was in school, there was one specific time where I almost got kicked out. I almost got kicked out of the Navy because I was just being disrespectful. That was one thing that I couldn't let go. I ran my mouth a lot, and I didn't care who I was talking to. I didn't care what I said to anybody. I was very unfiltered, and I would say whatever was on my chest. And I actually I had this. I don't know how he was in Navy boot camp. How he was even. What was up with like his career path, and no judgment at all, but he was he played for the Patriots. He had a D1 scholarship to Kentucky. I'm not sure, Kentucky University or something like that, and played football there. And then he played for the Patriots, and then he somehow was in my class for like in the military. And I was running late to formation, is what they called it. And formation was when we had to just line up and march to school. We had to get ready to march. And I was late. I was running late. And the dude was like, hey, hurry up, this and that. And he was very well respected. He was a grown man, and everyone respected him. He was very mature. And he was just telling me to hurry up so we could leave. I was holding back the whole class, and I was like, nah, I kept walking, and then I ended up getting reported, and I ended up going through the process of like where the higher ups would have decided if I was going to stay in the military or not. I only got to like one stage of it, luckily, and they kind of broke me down. They were yelling in my face and stuff, and like, why would you do that? And they actually made me cry. I started crying because I was really upset and couldn't like say anything because they kept like shutting me down and stuff. And I ended up having to do like some just some stuff around base, like as a punishment, I guess. And I was able to do it, and luckily I was able to stay in the military. But that was one instance where I almost got kicked out, and that was in school. When I got transferred to my first command, I didn't learn anything from that situation because, yeah, my attitude and the way I was behaving still carried over. I got into it with other kids my age. I had people threatening to fight me. I almost got into quite a few fights. And there's actually one instance where I had a guy, and this really woke me up. This really woke me up. I was in my shop, and there was a few guys, and they were just teasing me, and I was just kind of talking crap to them and everything. And one of the dudes was like, I got a bloody nose just because at the time I had issues with bloody noses. And they're like, oh, Novak got a bloody nose. And I was like, what's up? You want to get a bloody nose too? And then he came over to me and he was like, wait, what'd you say? And I was like, all right. He got on my face. He's like, you're not going to do anything or something like that. And then I was like, I shoved him. I immediately shoved him. I was like, get out of my face. Like, don't get in my face. And then he literally like socked me in the face. And I remember that was my first time ever getting punched in the face like that. And I was just like, I like blanked out. I was like, whoa, I just got punched. And then I was like, and I tried hitting him, and I got pulled back by some guy. And luckily during that whole time, none of like the higher ups or supervisors or anybody saw that, because I for sure would have gotten kicked out for that. And there was other instances where I got into it with other people, and I almost got into it with like this guy that was working for the Navy SEALs, who worked with the Navy SEALs, and he could have really hurt me, and I shoved him, and luckily he didn't kill me. He literally could have killed me. He was huge, and I don't know what I was thinking with that, but they did know about that instance, and they did try to kick me out for that instance. But the supervisor, he actually like kind of liked me. I don't know how. I think he just knew I was troubled, and he put in a good word for me when that situation happened, and when he had to report it. Like, he kind of defended me and was asking them to like give me grace in a way, and they did, and I was able to stay in. But those are just some situations that happened, so I'm just trying to paint the picture of like how I was. And the big takeaway too is, because I was acting this way, nobody liked me. I was just super disrespectful, didn't care what I said to anybody, and got into it with people, and because of that, nobody liked me. So, and I was very aware of that. There was so many times where like I would talk to people and I knew they did not care about anything I was saying. Like I tried, I was still human. Even though like I screwed off a bunch, I was still human, and I still wanted to have like normal conversations with people. And when I did, I could just tell by speaking to them that they didn't care about anything I said. So that hurt me. And I'd go home after like a bad day of work of like understanding that and realizing that. And then I would just like be up in my feelings and be upset, and that's when I started feeling depression on top of the loneliness. So it really just escalated, and that's where I fell into depression. And it really bothered me that I didn't have like anybody to hang out with. Like those first 2 years, I literally spent those first 2 years alone. I did not spend time with anybody, and because of that, it made me fall into another trap, which was, okay, how am I gonna hang out with people? Who can I hang out with? And then I discovered the dating apps, and that was just a whole, just a brand new rabbit hole that I fell into. And yeah, I was addicted. I was swiping nonstop, trying to meet women. But the only thing was that there was two things that I wanted out of it, meeting these women. Number one, I wanted to use my time. I wanted to spend my time with somebody. Number two, I wanted to um, do the deed. I wanted to do the deed. Y'all know what that means. That's what I was doing to just kill time, and it was just really unhealthy. Honestly, if I didn't meet a woman or any women, I was alone and I was sad and I'd get depressed and I'd play video games and I fell into lust. Like I discovered pornography actually later. I was about 19 when I discovered pornography. I know a lot of people discover it earlier, unfortunately, but I discovered it pretty late. And then when I did, I fell into that pretty hard. And yeah, I was really struggling with that. And that was kind of like the sum the that's kind of the summary of how my life was during those first 2 years. Moving on to the second 2 years of my military career, it was kind of the same thing, but going back to getting punched in the face, that woke me up. I was like, okay, clearly the way that I'm acting, being annoying, being disrespectful isn't helping me, so let me not act like this. So the next 2 years, I was like, all right, let me try to be a little bit more friendly. Let me try not to be disrespectful. And it actually helped me, and I actually made some friends. I actually was liked for the first time, and that was like a switch in my head. I'm like, dang, like people actually can talk to me. It's just a matter of how I talk to them, and if I'm respectful. So, yeah, so I ended up getting deployed my last 2 years, and I was on the ship, and unfortunately, the loneliness came back. I met some people initially in my shop where I was working that I thought I was going to grow with and become closer with, um, or become close with, and got separated. I got moved to like a different work center. I was doing other work, and kind of got separated from them, and I felt loneliness again, and I felt sad, and I just kind of put on this like I really like acted like nobody liked me because I was alone. I was like, okay, no one's reaching out to me. I feel like people don't care about me. So like whenever I spoke to somebody, I was always hesitant, and I always felt like, was it really worth talking to them? Did they really care about me? And people read into that, and I could tell that like people really actually didn't like me. It was true. I was discerning that people weren't people actually didn't like me, and it was true, unfortunately. And there was other things that I knew that just from later on communication with them kind of got completely cut off. I was like, okay, so these people never really cared. And yeah, so I those last 2 years I dealt with my trust issues continued to grow because of just relationships I had with people that failed. So that was really bad. That threw me more into a depressed state, and I sought out therapy throughout my time being on the ship, and that didn't really help. A little bit of background, like my growing up, I was in like 5 to 6 years of behavioral therapy, so I like knew already about coping skills and stuff like that. So when I was seeking therapy on the ship, they were kind of saying the same stuff, and I was like, oh, try to do this. I'm like, I already know these things. It doesn't work. So I was like, screw it. I don't need y'all's help. I just dealt with it on my own. And then I was fortunate enough to meet this therapist after deployment, and he was actually really cool. He was cool. I liked him. He did help me. I was able to just vent to him, and he was a good listener. So I really appreciated that. And then I separated, got out of the military, and I think right before I got out of the military, I met I don't know how long before I got out. But at some point, 4 to 5 months into me separating, or maybe half a year or more, uh, I met my ex girlfriend, and I was I had some experience with dating, like actually being in a relationship, even though at the time my relationships weren't actually relationships because I didn't care and I didn't actually like care to like want to. I wasn't. There was no intention of marriage with those prior relationships. It was just like kind of have that label of having a girlfriend and um, doing the deed with her and having someone to be with and talk to, but I never actually had any intention of doing anything like long term with them. Um, this girl that I met, I did actually care about, and she was the first girl that loved me, that said that she loved me. That was really weird. Never felt love before, and I told her I loved her too, and I did mean it. I did actually mean it, believe it or not. But I still carried some of those tendencies, some of those just I don't know. I didn't know how to be loyal, I guess. So I was unable to stay faithful to her. I didn't, end up having intercourse with any other females, but I definitely was entertaining other females at some point during the relationship. And yeah, it just was not going to work out. It was mostly on me. I was just a broken man, and it could have worked out. If I had my stuff together, if I wasn't mentally screwed up as I was, it could have been that could have been my wife if I had my mentals right and I was doing what I was supposed to in that relationship. It probably could have worked out, but it didn't work out. We ended up breaking up. We were together for 2 years, and that hurt. That sucked. She blocked me, so I didn't have any communication with her afterwards, which is totally understandable. I get that. But it hurt. I was like, dang, that was my first time dealing with like real heartbreak. That was hard to get over. And one of the coping skills that I used after breaking up with her was, okay, let me go find another girl to fill the void. So I immediately went on like 5, 6 dates right after I broke up with her. And I had this mentality where if I went on a date, this was kind of like my thinking when it came to dating. If I met somebody in person, then we were good to go. All they gotta do is meet me in person. I'll do all the talking, and it's gonna work out. And literally, like 5 out of the 6 dates were all horrible. I met one of them. We were together for about a couple months, and then it didn't work out. So they pretty much all failed. And I was like, wow, this is really weird. I've never been on a bad date before. Like, that was never a thing. I've never been on a bad date. And since I was going on all these bad dates, I was like, all right, clearly I had a hard time wrestling with the fact that there could be something wrong with me. But after going on those dates, I was like, something's wrong with me. So I was like, all right, I'm not dating no more. I'm done. Deleted the dating apps. And from this point forward, actually, when I deleted those apps, I've not been on the dating apps since, and it's been over a year. Um, I actually don't plan on going back at all. But yeah, so it was off the dating apps and was just dealing with like everything that happened with the dates and still grieving over my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, and working at this job, which also didn't help, with my relationship because I was dating her while I was at this job, and there was a lot of temptation, and a lot of the women at work were the reasons why I failed with my faithfulness and stuff. So I was still working at this really bad job that I didn't like either. Like I didn't like working there, so it was dealing with the breakup and understanding everything that's failed and dealing with a bunch of nonsense at work. So it was just a really like stressful period, and I ended up we got released one day on a Sunday, really early in the morning, and it was probably like 7 or 8 in the morning, and my parents lived right down the street, so I went right to their house, and they were getting ready for church. They're like, hey, you want to come to church with us? We're going to church, and I was like, sure. So, and I don't know to this day how I was able to agree to go to church so quickly. I was just totally okay with it. And I remember going to church and listening to this sermon and just being like, wow, this really resonates with me. Like, this sermon is very relatable to what I'm going through. It's almost like the sermon is speaking to me personally. And that was super cool. And I had somebody come up to me. Uh, he was a gentleman that worked there, and he later on actually baptized me. That's the man that baptized me. And he introduced himself, and I asked him to pray over me because I was dealing with a bunch of things, and he prayed over me. And then I ended up leaving church and got a message from him, email or text, something. And he was like, "Hey, CJ, I want to see if I can get you connected. Do you want to check out some of the groups that we have?" And he was telling me about a men's group and a young adults group. I ended up going to the I ended up going to that young adults group that next week, and from that point forward, that's when everything changed. Eventually, as time went by, the Lord really just worked in me. He took away some of those insecurities, and uh, I just completely changed. It was all God. It was God. God used these people to help me, and He turned me into the man I am today. And now I've been going to that church from the day of this video. I've been going to this church for just about a year now. So it's about to be 1 year mark this month, which is so insane to me. And I am so blessed that I have been connected with this church and have a relationship with Jesus, most importantly. He changed my life. And yeah, I no longer deal with loneliness. I no longer deal with depression. I I am in the best spot I've ever been in my life, honestly. I am truly in the best spot ever, and there's so much ahead of me, like so much ahead of my life now. Like, I'm just in a really good spot, man, and I'm so blessed. So that's kind of my story. Yeah, that's everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm gonna try to make another video here soon. But until then, that's it, guys. I really hope you guys liked it, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.